In modern times, nature seems to have become for most a mysterious and somewhat scary place. We are constantly reminded of the dangers of wild animals, poisonous insects, and poisonous plants. Rarely are we encouraged to explore and appreciate the positives that nature has to offer. Today, I want to explore some common fears and misconceptions around foraging. Misinformation is abundant about the dangers of eating wild plants, and the effect, whether intentional or not, is that people are discouraged to learn new skills and self-sufficiency and view the natural world as an enemy rather than an ally. This could not be further from the truth. To the untrained eye, a field of grass is just that, grass. But as you go on the journey of becoming intimately familiar with plants, one species at a time, you will start to notice things that you've never noticed before. What was once just grass is now white woodruff and cleavers, wood sorrel and ground ivy. And soon you will find where you thought there was little, there is actually an abundance of edible plants, each with its own merits and medicinal qualities. It takes time, dedication, and practice, but you can acquire this skill. When you finally do, it will transform the way you see any field or forest and make every trip outdoors an opportunity for discovery. We know about plants like poison oak, poison ivy, and poison hemlock. It is true, some plants can be potentially fatal when eaten, but common sense can be applied to avoid these dangers. Most of us don't avoid learning how to drive a car simply because we know of the potential dangers of operating it. We learn what to do, what not to do, and greatly reduce our chances of harmful incidents. And unlike operating a vehicle, where harm can occur because of someone else's careless behaviors, you are in complete control of what you choose to forage and consume. You may also hear that even a plant as commonly consumed as dandelion has been reported to be toxic and can cause issues like vomiting, diarrhea, and even kidney stones. Yes, dandelions are high in oxalates, which can contribute to the formation of kidney stones. Other foods high in oxalates include chocolate, spinach, most nuts, and even French fries, but we don't see any of these foods with warning labels. The common sense applied here is to not overly consume too much of any one food. A diverse diet makes many of these concerns obsolete. Some people will have different sensitivities to different plants, just like some people have nut allergies, gluten intolerance, and other food sensitivities. You may find that when trying a plant for the first time, you experience digestive problems like an upset stomach. Often your gut is simply not used to consuming these types of foods and may take time to get used to. Wild foods can taste wonderful when one understands how to cook and prepare it properly. Like any food, the flavor of wild foods can be enhanced with seasonings. Some plants will not taste good if you eat them raw. Others will have nearly no flavor at all. Some are best boiled, sautéed, battered and fried, or consumed in a hot tea, iced tea, or even infused into a syrup like honey or molasses. If you've ever tried to boil okra, then you know that there is a right way and a wrong way to prepare certain foods. Bitters used to be a common part of the human diet. Bitters exist in their highest concentrations in plants that are rich in tannins and plants that have dark green foliage. These plants help to stimulate the digestive system, which can prepare the body for processing food, reducing the likelihood of indigestion and gas. Because bitters don't taste very good to most people, most folks have removed anything bitter from their diet altogether, which is really a shame because it helps so much in contributing to good gut health. When I think about what it's like to learn foraging and to become really an expert at identifying wild plants, is I like to compare it to getting a new car. And by a new car, I don't necessarily mean a brand new car, but a car that's new to you. And there's this period of time that you go through where you're learning how to recognize your own vehicle, the color, the make, the model, usually so that you can find it in a grocery store parking lot. And once you get that keen eye for identifying your own vehicle, you start to notice that make and model everywhere. So for me, one of my first vehicles was a used Toyota Prius. I remember as I got familiar with my car, I started seeing Priuses everywhere, even though I'd never noticed them before. And I don't suspect that suddenly everybody was buying Toyota Priuses around the same time as me. I believe that it was just simply that I was noticing it more because I had developed the eye to notice it. And it's really the same for learning about plants. When you look out into an area and you're not looking for anything in particular and you don't have any experience or familiarity with these plants, all you're really going to see is grass, shrubs, trees. But as you start to learn the unique characteristics of these plants, you'll start to notice them everywhere and realize that there's quite an abundance of edible plants all around us, even in urban areas. So I'm looking at the ground right now and I just discovered another medicinal plant. I've been looking for a plant called horsetail, which is high in silica and really great for joint health and hair and skin and nails. And I see a little bit of that growing here right now, so that's a nice surprise. So of course this video is really just an introduction to the idea of foraging and trying to remove some of the fear mongering around foraging, especially when it comes to, you know, plants being poisonous or toxic and dangerous. I really don't want people to feel afraid to try something new. That said, there are some things that you should be cautious about. If you are not 100% sure that you've identified something either by working with an expert, getting a second opinion, or you don't have extensive experience in plant ID, don't go out and forage something and then eat bowlfuls of it. You want to be careful and cautious when trying new things by doing certain tests like chewing it and then spitting it out and seeing if there's any reaction, having very, very small amounts and seeing how your body reacts to it. Often when you see resources calling a plant toxic, it's toxic in very large amounts. And that can be true for a lot of things. So one comparison I like to use a lot is a sleeve of Oreo cookies. One Oreo cookie is great. If you eat a whole sleeve full, it's probably going to give you a stomach ache, but we don't consider Oreos toxic. I remember reading this book that talked about how colonists survived when they first arrived here, as well as how Indigenous Americans would survive during the hard months of spring. And this book, I wish I could remember what it was. I'll have to look it up. It talked about how in the springtime, any plant that had a tender bud forming was edible. People would take the young leaves and shoots of plants and just add them into a forage salad and eat that. And that was safe to do because the young plants at that stage in their life cycle in the spring did not have toxic levels of chemicals that they might have when they reach maturity. Many plants are safe in small doses. I don't think you really have to worry a great deal about poisoning yourself to death if you keep that in mind. Try things in small amounts and work your way up, of course, while also doing a lot of research, extensive research on any plants that you are planning to consume in any form. And definitely don't move into making things like medicinal tinctures or any concentrated form of the plant. It's always useful to get a second opinion. Now, with all of this said, I do plan to do a video series that will teach you how to identify plants by looking at things like the leaf structure, the root structure, and maybe also how it grows. So definitely be on the lookout for those videos this summer. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it inspirational and encouraging for your foraging journey, and I will see you in the next video.